One of the controversial things that we say is that there are no affairs in good marriages.
Since the birth of monogamy, there have been affairs. And in some sense, it seems like the affairs become even more rampant as time goes on. Do you see that changing, and why are affairs so popular?
Well, is it changing? It appears no, that there is more literature now being published on affairs, advice about how not to have an affair, what to do if you have an affair, magazine articles and so forth. There's a whole literature. And one could argue that that's simply because when something becomes visible, you hear more about it, although the thing itself is the same.
It's the same, right. Yeah, it feels like it's more rampant, but it's just being publicized better.
But the point is that affairs are common. They're more than most people think. And that people who look like they have stable marriage, often there's somebody is having an affair. So the way we think about it in Imago, and Helen and I spent a lot of time on this, is that one of the controversial things that we say is that there are no affairs in good marriages. A good marriage is going to address your emotional, your physical, and your relational needs.
Yes.
And that's a good marriage. And if you're not addressing all those needs,
then you're going outside the marriage, right? Then you go outside the marriage, and then you have an affair.
Right. So the other question is, why do people have affairs, and what's going on? In our experience, there's no such thing as you having an affair. There's such a thing as our relationship has an affair.
Okay.
You're having one with a person, and that makes you vulnerable to social criticism and to the possibility that I could divorce you.
Right.
But I'm having an affair too. I may not be having an affair with a person.
Right.
But I'm getting my needs met with my computer, with my email, with my children, maybe with my religion, and so forth. And I have never worked with a couple in which one of them was having an affair. It's just that each was having an affair in a different way.
That's such a powerful way to frame it, that each person is getting something from somewhere else rather than getting it from one another.
Right. So there are no victims in affairs.
Right.
There are two people whose emotional needs have not been met, and they're finding ways to meet them outside of the relationship.
Meet that outside.
And I think that I'll keep with your theme of birth. The birth of the internet and social media has made it really, really easy to have affairs because, it's more accessible. You can kind of have these virtual relationships, and there's like this veil of anonymity that goes along with that. So it's kind of it's easier to rationalize when you get connected on the internet.
And a lot of people believe they do have a good marriage and a healthy marriage, and kind of what you were saying, and the projection of you don't love me or you're not there for me. The story I tell myself, I can be projecting onto you, and we can appear as though we have a healthy marriage or a good marriage. But if the story I tell myself is I'm not loved, and I go off and someone else sends that phenylethylamine PEA chemistry off, then I can be...
Those powerful neurotransmitters.
Those powerful neurotransmitters, yes, that I may feel like my marriage is good, if you will, but it's certainly unconscious, as Harville and Helen talk a lot about. And someone can be vulnerable to that affair, not realizing some of the messages they're telling themselves and not staying conscious and intentional toward their relationship, which puts them at risk for that emotional affair especially.
Yeah.
Which is why we recommend a nighttime check-in before you go to bed at night.
Right.
Nice.
And just really do a check-in and take a temperature on the relationship every night and see if the relationship was safe for each other, and like, how did you feel in the relationship today, and listen to any feedback from Harville, and he does for me.
That can be so scary, I bet, in the beginning, but I bet after you start doing it, it is probably
it's
the
such
best.
a gift.
Right,
it's a
I
gift.
imagine.
The thing I say to a couple in a situation like this is, nobody leaves love.
Right.
No one's going to leave a marriage when they're feeling love.
Right. Absolutely.
So it's my job to make sure I'm staying attuned to Harville
Not just saying kiss me before we go to sleep,
Right,
but let's
yeah.
dialogue for just a moment before
Yeah,
we go to
right.
sleep. Check in.
Yeah, and have you made the kids lunch, and like all the stuff that can be so distracting.
Right.
To bring in a little different voice, the idea that we all do want safety and we go to our marriages for safety, and sometimes it gets so safe that there's a lack
It can
of
become boring.
excitement.
Ah, very good point.
And not that you can't recreate it within the marriage, because of course nobody knows the other person perfectly and there's always some unknown to explore. But very often people go outside because that's where the excitement is.
So then is there an answer? So if they're creating safety and creating a stronger relationship, then how do they keep the base of safety, but the fireworks and the sizzle?
It's a problem of balance.
Yeah.
We talk about re-romanticizing in Imago and being intentional and conscious and making the fun things to do list and doing the surprises and being attuned, as Helen said, with your partner.
So this has been a fascinating discussion about affairs, which are so incredibly rampant and really something that everybody should take seriously, even if they feel a relationship is strong or they look at others and say they're strong. So the answer is to be incredibly intentional, and even small things like checking in with each other at night and being even more proactive about showing appreciation are powerful ways to prevent an affair from happening.
Yeah. And one thing is, if you want to have an affair, have one with your partner.
Oh, yes, absolutely. That's a good. You've got the final note here on that one.
I love that. That's great.